Hey everybody, welcome back to Pages and Pours. My name is Robert. Happy Monday. I'm trying a little bit of a new setup with my new iPhone, new microphone. I took off the softbox lights because I thought they were a little bit too much glare, and I'm just going with the overhead lights down here so there's some shadows. I don't know the answer to all these different video questions and audio questions. I'm just trying to make do with what I've got without having to spend a lot of money on new equipment. But tonight I'm doing something a little bit different. As you see, I have one bottle up here and some sample bottles. I have been a big fan of the Woodford Double Oaked Bourbon for a while now. I've often described it as dessert in a glass. And I just happen to like the Double Oaked profile on bourbons, on ryes. The Sagamore Spirits Double Oaked is one of my favorite ryes. I like it on scotches, something like the Lafroig Quarter Cask, which is double oaked, and several other scotches which are double oaked really seem to appeal to me. And so my friend Holly is somebody I met online who's also a member of several of the online communities that I take part in. And if you remember several months ago, Holly was the one who tracked down a bottle of the Glen Scotia Victoriana for me when she was down in Florida. I met Holly and her husband at a meetup last month that was sponsored by another channel, SLB Drinks, Kurt and Trenton. And so we got a chance to chat there, and then we just started discussing what each of us has, and we decided to swap some samples. And so I realized she had 3 double oaked bourbons that I've never tried before. In fact, 2 of them I've never even seen before. And I had some things that she wanted to try, so we swapped some samples. So tonight I'm going to compare the Woodford Double Oak to 3 different Double Oaked bourbons. One is by Peerless Double Oak. One is by Starlight Distillery in Indiana, Starlight Double Oaked. And then the Nulu Double Oaked. Nulu, I believe, is in Kentucky, but they're sourcing their bourbon from MGP in Indiana, if I got that story correct. I don't know that much about Nulu. Anyway, so I'll pour the Woodford Reserve and use that kind of as my test case. And then I'll try each of these other samples and give you a little information about them and see if I want to try to pick any of them up. They're not really readily available here, but I travel enough where I might be able to find one somewhere. All right, so Woodford. Let's hope I don't spill all over my desk, which wouldn't surprise me. I'm actually tasting this out of my Woodford Reserve Glencairn. And then while that sits for a second, I'll pour a little bit of these other samples. This is the Starlight Double Oaked. Oops, the top didn't come off. There it goes. I'll pour a little of that in there. And then this next one is the Peerless, and this looks like to be the darkest of the 3, the Peerless Double Oaked. And then the last one is the Nulu Double Oaked. And most of these, except for the Woodford, are usually individual single barrels, so a lot of them are even cask strength. Not all of them, but... And some of them it's hard to find specific information on because the batches do vary. But we'll start with the Woodford. Now, the Woodford is not a single barrel. This is only 90.4 proof, so it's the lowest proof of the 4 bourbons on the desktop. This is expensive here in North Carolina. It's $65 here in North Carolina, but it's $50 everywhere else. The Total Wine that I shop at in Lexington, Kentucky, when I visit Kentucky, it's $50. And I usually get a lot of caramel, a lot of vanilla, a little bit of spice. Like I said, dessert in a glass. Oh, it's gorgeous smell. Okay, very much like I remember it. Some oak, some caramel, some spice, And the spice might be a result of the double oaking and some vanilla. It's just deliciously good. And on the finish, there's a big hit of vanilla. Maybe even like a toasted marshmallow. That might just be my picture in my head, but that's the note I just got. Okay, this is the Starlight. Now, the Starlight is from the Huber Starlight Distillery in Indiana. Starlight's becoming quite well known, but I've never had anything from Starlight before. This is the Double Oaked. It is not available here in North Carolina. This one is probably around 103 proof. Like I said, they vary from batch to batch. I've seen some of their store picks as high as 109, 110 proof. There's one listed online at the Total Wine store that I told you about in Kentucky. That's $68, and it was 109.6 proof. And Starlight and the Peerless Distillery are both grain to glass distilleries. They handle the entire process. And so this one, they say to expect things like dried fruit, pecan, vanilla. Okay, this has quite a bit lighter aroma than the Woodford. If I didn't know this was a bourbon, I could almost be fooled into thinking this was a Scotch, because it is light on the aromas. We'll see. Yeah, that's no Scotch. It is lighter. I get the dried fruit, a little bit of spice. I don't get a lot of vanilla or caramel. It's mostly the fruit that I get on this one. That's pretty nice though. Okay, and this dark one is the Peerless. Now the Peerless is the other one that's grain to glass. And this is technically available in North Carolina, but I've never seen it in any of the stores that I've gone to. And it's expensive here. It's $93 in North Carolina, $89 at Total Wine, so fairly consistent prices there. And it's somewhere between 102 to 108 proof. This one is known for being really sweet up front, and then you start to get some cinnamon and some spicy oak. And they say sometimes on your second or third sip, you'll even get a leather note. Okay, now that's much darker and richer than the Starlight is. The aroma is not nearly as powerful on these two. Maybe there's some bias based on the order that you smell and taste whiskeys. I don't know enough about tasting side by side to know if that's really a thing or not. But I have noticed I often have a preference for whatever I taste first. And then if I sit with a glass for a while, my ideas about it change from the initial sips, because I did a side-by-side recently of the Elijah Craig Barrel Proof and the Larceny Barrel Proof, the first two from this year for each of those. So those 4 barrel proofs. And then I sat with the glasses after I finished my video, and my opinions of them changed pretty considerably. So I'm not sure I'm good at blind tastings or tastings in general, where I'm just taking a couple little sips and then having to make up my mind. I think sitting with a glass changes my idea of it. Okay, let's try the Peerless. Okay, now that's delicious. I can see why this one is hard to find right now. Even the Total Wine sites that I went to, I checked a couple different locations and they were all out of stock. And like I say, I've never seen it in North Carolina, even though it's on our official price list. That is really nice. And of course, of the 4 glasses here, it's the most expensive. That's the way it works for me. You give me 4 and you can give them to me blind so I don't know the prices, and I'm going to pick the most expensive one. I don't know why. It's just the way it works. But that's really tasty. Okay, on to the Nulu. Like I said, I don't know that much about Nulu. In fact, I think Nulu even had or still has a double oaked wheated bourbon. I don't think it's as common, and I couldn't find anything on their website. Their website gives very little information. In fact, their website is listed as Prohibition Craft Spirits. I don't know that's the name of the company in Louisville where these things are aged and stored, but that's what I saw on the website. And like I said, I did read that this is sourced from MGP in Indiana. I guess now it's called Ross and Squibb, but everybody still refers to it as MGP. Now, there's a barrel pick of this listed at Total Wine for $88, so actually about the same as the Peerless. And it's listed as 115.2 proof. And I saw a review online of one that was 120 proof, and the guy said, it's hard to imagine 120 proof whiskey that tastes even hotter. He said, but this one did. So he wasn't a huge fan of how hot it tasted at 120 proof. But they say this one is dried fruit, butterscotch, and caramel. I don't know the proof of these particular samples. I don't know which bottles they came from, but there's that range online. Okay, now this reminds me more of the Starlight in the aromas. It's a little bit light. It's not overpowering with sweetness. It's not overpowering with oak. It doesn't smell like it's hugely high in ABV. But then again, it's the 4th one I've tasted, so I just could have dead senses by now. That does taste pretty hot. Excuse me. Let's rephrase that. That's very hot. Or I just tasted it and it went down the wrong pipe. I'm not sure which, but that's hotter than I expected. The tastes are similar to the Starlight. They're lighter, not as dark and rich as the Peerless and the Woodford. But I do get the honey sweetness on the beginning, a little bit of the fruit. I don't get a lot of the oak. I just get a lot of the ethanol. Okay, the second sip isn't as hot. I get a little bit more of the sweetness on the second sip. But everything is kind of covered up a little bit by the high proof. Okay, so this is just my opinion. It's based on a very quick snap judgment. And in fact, I hope my phone is recording, because in the video I did for Monday's video, it decided to quit recording after 16 minutes. I don't know why. So I ended up having to record that one twice. So I'm hoping it's still going. I can't tell from the way I'm sitting here. I can't see the front of the phone. I will definitely keep Woodford Reserve in my cabinet. I really like this a lot. The flavors are great. The aroma is great. It's only 90 proof. It's very easy to drink. Beautiful. And I would definitely seek out a bottle of the Peerless if it ever comes available in this area again. I'm not sure I'd rush out to get either the Nulu or the Starlight if I had the option of getting the Peerless and keeping the Woodford. Those are the two I think I would prefer. Of the 4, to be honest, I think I like the Woodford the best. And luckily for me, it's the least expensive of the 4. It's also the lowest proof of the 4, so it may be that I'm just fighting the higher proof today. I'm not really sure. Anyway, in the comments, let me know if you've tried any or all of these 4. What are your preferences? What do they run in your market? Because prices vary so widely in this country. It's crazy that the same exact bottle of Woodford Reserve would be $15 difference between here and another state. That doesn't make any sense to me. I grew up in the world of books, where a book has the price printed on the cover, and unless the retailer is putting it on sale, that's the price you'll pay everywhere in the country. Nobody jacks up the price of the books. So I have a hard time getting used to the variable pricing on whiskey, and I honestly think the government should say, hey, the distillery gets the right to choose what the price is, and retailers have to sell it for that price. I don't think that's an unreasonable system, but They didn't ask me. I'm not the commissioner. I'm not in charge. Let me know which ones you liked, and I will see you again Friday with another book video. Bye, everybody. Cheers.